Let's see, my first video I just recorded, and I don't know if I clarified. I was trying to cover so much stuff at once. But in my first video, I was talking about what's the purpose of DMT and why does the brain produce DMT? Obviously, it's first a dream. It's just part. That's the purpose for us to dream. Now, when you're taking extreme levels of DMT, I guess artificially, you're kicking people into almost like lucid dreaming while they're awake. I suppose is what it would be. But this made me think of something. Like, I never remember my dreams, but I do dream. Makes me wonder. See, I'm a big daydreamer. I daydream way too much. Makes me think that maybe one of the reasons I don't remember my daydreams is because I depleted my DMT in my brain because I daydream too much during the day. Anyway, that's just a random passing thought. But anyway, I kind of talked about that. But the other thing, they said something else that caught my attention. So I'm gonna play the video and then talk about that. Because I was done. I was just listening to the video, killing some time. But the first part of the video, I only listened to. I'm up to 13 minutes now, so let me play a little bit of this, then I'll share my thoughts.
In any one of these ways, ayahuasca and smoking DMT is probably the most common. It's a really unique experience in the pantheon of psychedelics. It's doing something that's different. So, from just a materialist, reductionist standpoint, what is happening when you actually take exogenous DMT that's different from when you take psilocybin or when you take, LSD or something like that?
Yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question for sure. From the science perspective, anyways. Yeah, it's right. It's like how can something that more or less binds the same main receptor, 5-HT2A, to have these effects? Yeah, I think we're sort of in a facile stage of understanding that. It's like yeah, I mean, so to kind of go in with the conversation that y'all were just having, to me, one of the really interesting things about endogenous DMT and one of the potential roles for it is in visual perception. So in that study, we found high gene activity in the neurons in the visual cortex of the rats for the biosynthetic DMT enzymes. And we also found DMT in those areas comparable to serotonin.
And you said in the eye genes?
So in the visual cortex, in the neurons of the rat visual cortex is where we were mainly looking in that study. And we basically found a very strong presence of endogenous DMT in that brain area.
So that's the point right there. That's the point that I want to focus on. You see, what most people don't understand is, I mean, if people read the Bible and understood it, they would have a clue what this is talking about. If they understood it. But Jesus said the light of the body is the eye. Now, he didn't say eyes. He said eye. He said the light of the body is the eye. that's what he's talking about when he's talking about the visual cortex in the brain. Because the eyes are just sensors that are inputting information. You know, these are just sensors. These ears, the ability to feel, that's all inputting information into the brain, where the interpretation of the events are manifesting. I mean, we get information, whether it be, information's the same, whether it be visual or audible. It's converted into language or understanding. It doesn't matter whether it's visual or audible, it's still the same, converted into the same thing. Now, whether it's visual information or audio information, it's still information. So the point I want to make here is that he's saying that DMT's in the visual, found in the visual cortex. And Jesus said the light of the body is the eye. And Jesus wasn't talking about your eyes. And just to give an example of that, a guy named Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now. And see, if you're, what's happening is people, the reason he wrote the book called The Power Now is because you have a very powerful area of your brain, which is the same area you dream. You have visual, audio, information, which the Bible calls the heart. I hate to give away too many secrets, but and that's where you process all this information. It's called the heart. And that's where you see or you envision, like Trump says he's a visionary, right? Or so all of this information, that's your ability to understand. Is to have that information that's where information, like for example, a computer can download information, but it doesn't reflect on the information. It doesn't have any consciousness to process that information. So the heart, have you ever seen like a mirror where you can, like if you put a mirror within a mirror, it bounces the information back and forth into infinity? See, the heart is where you can see that information, and you can bounce that information and look at it. And that's what Jesus was talking about, the light of the body is the eye. And that's why this guy called Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power Now. He wrote this book because of this thing in us called the heart. It's a very powerful thing. FDR said, men are not prisoners of fate, but prisoners of their own mind. Now, have you ever seen a house of mirrors? A house of mirrors is a place where people get trapped, right? So that's what, and I know that these great people don't explain these things, and it doesn't help people if they don't understand, but how can they understand these things? But the house of mirrors is what the heart can do to people. It said, men are not prisoners of fate, but prisoners of their own mind. That's how you're a prisoner. This, and I don't want to get into too many secrets about this. So when he's talking about the visual cortex, he's not talking about your eyes per se. He's not talking about the eyes. He's talking about the eye, or the visual cortex of the mind. And it's the same area in which you dream at night, or when you daydream when you're awake. But it's the heart is. I don't want to reveal too many details about it. I already said too much, I think. Yeah, I've said too much. But that's just what I wanted to point out here.